So I love D&D. It's like my favorite game ever. You get to goof off with friends, roll some dice, and make some stories you can reminisce about from years to come. But you probably already know that because you clicked on this video. One of the best things about D&D is that you can kind of play whatever way you want. Every DM has their own unique little stamp they put on the game. And that's great, that's cool. It makes two separate DMs rarely ever be similar to each other. They kind of play their own game. And everyone's got their own different place they get their influence from for their games. Everyone has their own favorite movies, books, series, video games, anime, you name it. And everyone has their own favorites of them, I guess, that they put into their D&D games. I guess when I think about my own influences for D&D, I would probably think a lot more video games, because I played a lot of them when I was younger. And when you think of video game influences on your tabletop games, it's mainly for narrative or setting reasons or like aesthetic reasons. It's never really for mechanics or game design. But why not? There's lots of things you can learn from game design that you can put into your own games. Because D&D, in the end of the day, is a game. And that's why I'm here today. Welcome to ScreenToTable. It's a new series of mine where I talk about aspects from video games that you can use into your tabletop games. And I just wanted to do it because, I don't know, thought it'll be a bit of fun. And there's no better way to start out than the classic adventure series, The Legend of Zelda. Everybody and their mum knows The Legend of Zelda. My mum knows Zelda. My mum loves Zelda. I probably have played and beaten Ocarina of Time like 50 times, maybe more. I actually don't really know. But I love the entire series. All the games are great. I love Wind Waker. I love Majora's Mask. So what'll be a classic Zelda adventure hook? Well, that's kind of easy. The Dark Lord has appeared and wants to take over the world, and you have to save it. How do you save it? Well, you gotta adventure around the world to gain power. How do you get the power? Get X artifacts from X amount of dungeons, and then you can go to the baddie's house and beat them up. Specifics are always different. Some things are kind of thrown in there between. At one point you're a dog, but that's generally how a Zelda game works. So your villain lives in Deathreach Castle, a magical fortress powered by evil that is protected by a barrier that you can't get past because the Dark Lord's power is just too powerful for you right now. But you've been told that you can get past it if you make a magical weapon out of 3 magical stones. Okay, great. So where are these stones? Well, there's a few ways you can divulge that information. The easiest, but a little bit less exciting, is to just tell them. Maybe have an NPC helpers at the party who kind of lets them know. There are 3 dungeons. I've marked them all on your map. Here, here, here. Go pick up some milk on the way back. Bye! But another way I've been kind of brainstorming in my head is maybe there's like a prophecy etched onto a stone tablet, or a passage in an ancient tome in the back of the library. When darkness falls upon this land, the light will strike with weapon in hand. Through frigid air, where flesh will freeze, through the heart of fire, an infinite breeze. It's a bit like when you meet Sheik in Ocarina. When you meet him for the first time, he kind of goes like, yeah, go to some dungeons, and there's one in the bottom of a lake, there's one in a forest, go do it. You kind of have to find out for yourself and decode yourself of where these dungeons could be, because you're like, oh, underneath a lake, well, there's only one lake, Lake Hylia, I'll go there. We'll go back to my little prophecy there. So where flesh will freeze, that can be like a freezing Arctic desert. The heart of fire can be in an active volcano. An infinite breeze can be like a castle in the sky. So the next thing I do is go out and investigate and try and find these magic stones. Where do you go to first? Well, it's D&D. Let them pick, put them on the map, and just have them like, oh, I want to go to the Arctic first, so let's go to there. It's D&D. Give them a choice. That's kind of the strength of the game. You don't have to go in a certain order. So we'll take one example for now. You go to Frostpoint in the Arctic desert of Brastow. You traverse through the harsh, cold climate and eventually get to the fortress of Frostpoint, and where you get an audience with the Ice Baron. And you tell him, do you know anything about these magic stones? He's like, yeah, it's in the ice dungeon, all right? And then you say, can I go into the ice dungeon? And he's like, no, you can't. It's sacred ground. Get out of here, you outsider. How dare you say that? This kind of thing happens in Zelda all the time. It's kind of like, you get like you have to do like a pre-quest. It's like win over like a noble's favor, get some sort of key to get in there. But the specifics for you to actually get in there, it could be up to you. You don't have to do it exactly according to plan. One way you can do it is maybe they have to sneak in there without the Ice Baron knowing. that can be fun, but make sure there's always consequences to stuff like that. Maybe, you know, he sends out people to go stop you, and you just have to fight them because it's all for the greater good. Whatever happens, make sure you always have a backup plan. You kind of want to make sure your party gets into that dungeon somehow, because if they don't, you can't really do the game. Never really bring your party to a dead end. Make sure you always have a way to get in there in your head. A plan B. So now I guess we come to the dungeon, a Zelda staple, but for the mechanics, it's a big topic, so I might do a separate video on that. But for now, I'm going to give you a little bit of inspiration for just flavor-wise for your dungeon. The Altar of Magma used to be a sacred ground for a fire goddess, where a cult of pyromancers would sacrifice people to appease the goddess. The local lord would turn a blind eye because he feared the strength of this cult. Undead remnants would wander the dungeon, spectres would scream through the halls, and the goddess's influence would just be draining. Now that's a blotch on the Ashamed family's history. They locked it up and forbid anyone to enter it to discover its secrets. You traverse the dungeon, fight the monsters that's in there. You eventually find the Room of Magic Stone is, but in there as well is a demon. And this demon was the one who was posing as this fire goddess all this time. And they're very angry for being locked up for hundreds of years. So you beat all the dungeons, you get a certain amount of artifacts. What do you do now? Well, you go make that magic sword and break through the barrier and fight the Dark Lord in his castle. I like to think this castle is like a final dungeon, almost like a final exam of all the dungeons you've done so far. Maybe you take aspects of the dungeons, like a fiery area and an icy area, or maybe you have like a boss rush before you fight the main baddie. But either way, you fight the baddie, you win, and you save the day, or you don't. That's D&D. You can kind of do whatever you want for that final baddie, kind of use whatever guy you want to use in there, but that's kind of really it. That's kind of my first idea for a Zelda adventure hook. I got a couple more ideas up here and a couple more video games, so I might do more of these videos. If you liked it, then please consider subscribing, and hopefully the next video will be better than this one. So, bye.